So I now have two rear ends for the Lotus Emira. You know, there's only been one problem I've had with this car, and that is about 8 months after getting it, I noticed on the back, the paint started to bubble. Up in here, you know, I drove it 120 miles to my dealer. They looked at it. They needed it for a couple days, so I drove 120 miles back. Then I drove 120 miles back to the dealer to pick up my car, and they said, yep, this is a known problem. Have your car back. We'll see what we can do. And then I got good news that, you know, Lotus had decided to go ahead and replace it under warranty. Cool. So they said it would take about 3 months. Was it 2 months or 3 months for the part to come in? They said apparently there's a shipping container that lots of parts get loaded on that gets sent over from Lotus across the Atlantic and then over to, you know, the US. And they were going to put a new bumper in that box for me, and eventually it would show up. And eventually it did. I drove around. I nicknamed the car Blister Butt for a while. And the blisters started to spread. There started to be more. And it didn't bother me too much though, right? Paint problem, they're going to replace it under warranty. Okay. So then eventually I drove it 120 miles back, gave them the car, took about 2 weeks, then drove all the way back home with it. And the new paint just looks fantastic. And the back looks like nothing ever went wrong. One thing I like is having a little bit of green on a silver car. I know that's not everybody's thing. It's mine. And unfortunately Lotus said, no, we're not going to cover the paint protection you put on here that you had tinted and the opacity faded to fully transparent. No, we're just going to replace the part. Okay, so they had a paint error. I'm out the PPF that I put on here, paint protection film. It's not too bad. You look at the car, I've got my green fade on the side and I don't have any on the rear end anymore. Oh well, maybe I'll get this added on later, you know, at my expense. It's very interesting to look at this part. It's pretty much black plastic, is what it seems to me. And the visible part of bubbling was up in here. But once I take it off, I can see, you know, in spots I couldn't see before, there was bubbling along the bottom, along parts that were hidden by other body panels. And it looks like they went ahead and picked at it, pulled some of the paint off to kind of send some information back to Hethel. My dealer in the San Francisco Bay Area said that they sent the images and video back to corporate, and they said, yeah, we need to replace it. They said you couldn't repaint it. Something about the material. They said the material's giving off a gas. This is my dealer. Material's giving off a gas. They need to send a new bumper that doesn't have that chemical error, whatever it is, and then they locally painted it with a paint shop. The metal fleck, it came out exactly like the rest of the car. It looks exactly like it. So at the end of the day, everything's good. So I asked the dealer, can I keep it? And they said, usually Lotus wants these things back. So let's call them and find out. And they contacted me and they said, hey, you can take it back with you. Lotus says they don't need to see the actual item. They don't want to ship it from California. You can go ahead and keep it. But in case they change their minds, they wanted 6 weeks to for me to promise that I can send it back to them if within 6 weeks they said they wanted it. So I showed a picture of this online and I described what happened to the Lotus forum. And there was a guy from England. He's apparently works at Lotus. And he said, you can't have that. It's part of the agreement. All those parts that have the bubbling paint, they have to be sent back. And I'm like, dude, Lotus corporate said they didn't want it. They told my dealer, hang on to it for 6 weeks, but then you can let the guy keep it. He's like, no, it's a directive from Lotus. The internet can be a funny place. So I was like, okay, dude, sure thing. So I guess this little video is dedicated to him because I'm about to hang this on my wall. I think in a blank spot above my train table. You know, everybody's got a hobby. I like little model trains, and I like driving Lotuses, so it's time to hang it up. Now, one thing my dealer said to me, and I agree, is he said they were a little surprised that cars are still showing this problem, since they started showing up peely paint on doors with the first customer deliveries in Europe. The very first ones. And you know, in the US, there was a big delay here. I had to wait 2.5 years to get the car. And you get the car after 2.5 years, and it still has paint bubbling problems. And they built it almost 2 years after the first delivery. Very strange. And the dealer said, I don't know why they didn't fix that, right? And I also agree. If you got a known problem, why don't you solve it? It seems to me that they're solving it on the repair side. When it shows up on a few cars, we'll just replace the door panels or the rear bumper or wherever, instead of fixing the problem with the plastic. I don't know why they're thinking that way. They should just solve the problem at the source, right? You solve the problem at the source, you nip it in the bud. Oh, these pliers are crap. These cutters are garbage. I took the Elise in once to get serviced because the brake hydraulic distribution block had failed. And when I got the car back, I had one of these little remove before flight. I took it to Suspension Performance in the Bay Area. They did a great job. I love these little tags. This is a Elise key. How do I get that other one?
Want me to hold that up in the middle?
I don't know. I'm just going to go behind my back.
I'll go on the inside.
I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. Oh, I'm going to hook it. Got it. Woo.
Wow, that was an engineering feat.
All right. Little garage art. Hey, I like this thing above the train set. All right, let's award some points to my dad, who helped hold the ladder out over the train set at an angle like that while I went up there and attached this thing. 50 points. 60 points. Let's be generous. To Lotus for replacing my bumper under warranty. 100 points. Thank you. To Lotus for not paying for my PPE, which was a custom design, custom print with opacity change. The shop said they'd never done, and it was a popular shop in the Bay Area. You know what? Minus 20 points. And the hundreds and hundreds of miles I had to drive in traffic. back and forth to the dealer multiple times to get this sorted. Yeah, I'll subtract another 20 points for that. Hey, you know, driving a Lotus should be fun, right? Not in California Bay Area traffic. That sucks. But I can't call the car Blister Butt anymore. So I have to come up with a new name. All right. I think I'll just go for a drive.